The Product Management Talk.
Disclaimer: these podcasts, unless stated otherwise, are our own thoughts and ideas and do not reflect that of our company or third-party sources.
So welcome guys to the Product Management Talk. And I'm your host Anand and Abhisek with my co-host Abhisek Chaudhary.
Hey guys.
Abhisek. So nice to have you, Abhisek. It's been long that we caught up, and I think COVID gives us this opportunity. Even though these are not the best times, but at least we are free to talk to each other. This is the best time to kind of revisit things we have been always discussing, and things which have always kind of becoming enigmatic to people about product management. So we have answered a lot of difficult questions in our life about what is product management, and a lot of simple questions about defining strategy, vision, and all that about products. So let's answer the most difficult question to start with. And definitely it's going to be a journey. Abhisek and I intend to not just have just the two of us talking here. We would want to have some of the leading product managers in this field come over, talk and share their experiences. And this entire podcast is all about our shared experiences. It has nothing to do with the corporates that we work for, or people who are responsible to pay our paychecks. But end of the day, I see product managers as those micro entrepreneurs that exist in corporates, and I would want Abhisek to layer his experience and share with us what he thinks about what is product management, what does a product manager do, what is this whole department of product management, is it really necessary? I mean, we have had great engineers come with great products. Huh?
It's diverse, it's vast, it's complex, it's often confusing.
Yeah.
And even after like 7 years of being in this role, I often find is this what a product manager is supposed to do? And I'm pretty sure most of us face the same questions every other day. Okay, and so what do we start with, Anand?
Oh, hold on. We didn't introduce ourselves. So, yes. Abhisek, why don't you start with your introduction? Why would people listen to us, damn it? They don't even know us.
Yeah, hey, guys, my name is Abhisek Chaudhary, and I have been a product manager since 2013. I'm right now working as a director of products for a security product portfolio for one of the largest companies. But my experience has been across infrastructure, data center automation, compliance, security, in those kind of roles. And I come from an engineering background, so I bring that perspective also. And I'm hoping that I can relate to a lot of engineers because I'm hoping I can speak the language that they do. That's it, Anand.
Yeah, so thanks, Abhisek. That was a good terse introduction. Unlike me, who goes into winding stairs of never-ending story. So, guys, I have been working for last 20 years. I think a good 14 years I have been in product management. And presently, I am mentoring organizations on product management. So, Abhisek and I go, a couple of years back when he wanted to jump into product management, and he did along with me. Abhisek comes from a tech background. I come from a field background, and this was a good harmony that you and I shared together. In terms of, he gave me the perspective about how technology makes things happen, and I gave him a perspective about how we should think, being customer centric. So one of the core things as we evolve on this, what is product management, it's all about how well you can stand in your customer's shoes. There are nice words to it. There's empathy, there is validation, there is all kind of product management jargon that you would hear in your offices. But end of the day, it's as simple as that. If you were standing in your customer's shoe, what would you think about your product, and what would you do to your product to make your own life easy? Is that a good way of looking at it, Abhisek?
Yeah, but I sort of felt that you went down the winding stairs that you so.
Yeah, I told you. Oh, you have to stop me. But you know what?
So, what is the first thing that we should talk about in our podcast today?
So I think why not let's simplify what is the core job that a PM does, and where does this core job come from, right? I mean, for engineers, or for sales guys, or for people in HR, there is a very defined job. This is what they have to do. If I have to do that similar definition for product management, tell me where's the starting point.
That's actually a great question. I don't know how, but let me put that in a single liner first. I feel, and I think that a product manager is the person who is responsible for the whole product, or even a product portfolio, right? Um, but once you make a statement like that, you sort of realize that you're oversimplifying the whole thing. And for the most of us who are looking into product management as a future, it's probably you start thinking, hey, am I supposed to do that? Am I supposed to go and code? Am I supposed to go and sell the product and all those things? So let me take a step back, Anand, and say, if I look into the core responsibilities of a product manager, I would say it's the vision of the way the product is going. It's a strategy on how you're delivering on the vision. And then the next level is the whole go-to-market, or GTM as we call it, as to how you're going to deliver that
So
strategy.
Abhishek, hold on. Before we go ahead into delving into what product management is looking into, can you help me understand where these needs arise from? We have had the 4 Ps and the 5 Ws and all that stuff. Why don't you talk about it? Because end of the day, product management is at core of management.
If you look at product management, it's always a leadership role, as compared to any other role that's there. Let's go back to how you reach that vision or the strategy or GTM. What are the tools that we use? And I think you said it correctly when you said 5 Ws. So I think a typical product manager, the first thing that we learn is those 5 Ws. And what are those 5 Ws, right? So it's the why, it's the what, it's the who, it's the where, and it's the how. Although how starts with H, but again, typical acronyms, right? So let's start with the who. I mean, when you are defining, let's say, if you have to talk about the journey, let's say your executive leadership team comes back and says
Well,
that we want
you know what? Let's not be abstract. Let's take a product, right? Or let's take a need, and then let's start defining who, what, where, when.
agreed. So let's talk
And
about.
I think one of the most favorite between you and I has been an iPhone, an Apple journey. Why not talk? I mean, it's one of the most
Apple.
successful products that has been there.
You might want to, but I always feel Apple is disruptive, so it sort of changed the trend. But that's not something that a typical product manager will face on
Yes,
day-to-day,
yes,
right? So
I
let
get
me
that.
take an abstract concept of, let's say, you're building a e-commerce site.
Wonderful.
So,
Yeah.
if you look into the world, every other company is building an e-commerce site. Like you have Uber, Ola, Flipkart, Amazon. So let's take that. Now let's take, the mandate from your leadership, for example, is, hey Anand, go and build an e-commerce site, and then you need to decide, like, what should it do. Like, so what do you start with? You start with understanding who you want to build the e-commerce site for.
So
What
who's my
is
customer? So
who is
who's
my customer? What's the profile? What's the demographics?
so this is a very important question. Product management starts from customers. It does not start from technology.
No. If you understand this, I believe, I think this has been used so much, it's almost a cliche. But that video from Steve Jobs where he says, like, the journey starts with the customer, that's very, very true, right? The journey never starts with technology.
And
I'm not saying technology is not important, but yeah.
yeah, and our experience tells us that most of the product managers, and I'm not saying all, but most of the product managers lose this one thing, even though it is harped most of the times.
Yeah, we know it very well. But yeah, I mean, jokes apart, it starts with the who. It always starts with the who. So, who are you building the product for? You need to understand that that aspect before you even start thinking what you want to build, right? So, that's a great segue to, once you understand the who, let's talk about what is that need that you want to address for that particular who. So, let's say, again, going back to the e-commerce project, let's say you're building a clothing retail website, right? So, who are your target customers? Your typical target customers would be teenagers, working couples, people who essentially are busy, who are not able to visit, their malls or their local clothing stores, and they are the ones who are probably going to go and look into online and purchase something from there, right? So that's where you define your target customers. You define what percentage of that particular demographics,
So yeah, I
would
mean,
be
so
using it.
yeah, I mean, just for the sake of not elaborating on it, because I think this 5Ws needs a whole
Yeah,
podcast on
I
itself.
agree. Yeah.
But what I understand is that Abhishek, what you're trying to tell me is product managers primarily, when you say they are leaders, primarily set the path towards what
Yep.
needs to be done based on certain facts which are market driven, and based on those drivers. So if I have to sum one of the jobs that product managers does, definitely he needs to know the customer. But what if I have to look at from a 30,000 feet view, it is that they need to understand the market they are going for.
Absolutely, yes.
And when I say market, I would just take the liberties of adding what problem of that market they're trying to solve. So there has to be a problem which these guys are trying to solve. And I really like what you said, not to take the example of Apple, because Apple solved a problem which people didn't know they have.
Yeah, you keep on hearing words like unmet customer needs. You keep on hearing disruption. But again, let's. What I want to do is let's quickly go through the 5 Ws, and probably as we build this podcast out, we can take each of this and talk more about it. So we talked about the who, we talked about what you're going to build for that particular segment, and then the crucial justification that comes is why you are going to build something that you're going to do. And this needs to be very, very data centric. You need to back it with the right data. You need to go and do computer research, market research, find out why you're going to build something is going to sell, right? That's a typical product manager aspect that you need to bring in. And then comes the part as to how you're going to build it, right? So when I say how, it contains of two aspects. One is the technological aspect, that is probably something that you're going to work with. Hey, do I host it on cloud? Do I build an on-prem or on a server farm or whatever? What technology do I use? That's a discussion with your architects and your engineers. But the other how is how you're going to provide that solution to the to your end customers. That's something that you need to think through, define that customer journey, right? So and UX, customer journeys, is something. UX, CX, you keep on hearing all of this, is actually a part of that whole how. And then the last part.
So UX CX, for people who are not used to these acronyms, is user experience and customer experience. Is that right?
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Yeah, that's correct. I'm almost on the verge of saying, "Wow, Anand, you knew about that." But anyways, jokes apart. Yeah.
Sometimes, you know what? Sometimes,
surprise me.
I surprise people. And
But
most of the times, I end up building products which are successful.
Yes,
And that also surprises people because they always think, "Ye to gaya."
But going to the last one is where. I think where is sort of getting, my personal opinion is where is something that is sort of getting less and less relevant because we live in a global, local
I'll tell you
world,
what,
right? So,
Abhishek, it's context driven. So I will tell you where is important even today. And I'll take the same example of one of the e-commerce or a SaaS application. So where is again the target market? So unlike in the yesterworld of classical market, on offline shelf, which you would figure out where should I sell first, this city versus that city. I think what you are talking about here is the target market. Now, the target market could be a geography. A target market could be an income segment. A target market could be, certain professionals of certain jobs. I mean, right? So where is still very, very relevant.
Typically, in my case, I use these 5 Ws to define the business case. which is what I take to the leadership and have the further discussions before I actually, it's more of alignment with the various leaderships, engineering, products, etc., before you actually go and develop it. Which also, one thing that you need to understand is, apart from all of this, a product manager, you will hear it's a leadership role. If you're talking to the recruiter, if you're talking to any of the product manager, they'll see a leadership role. I'll add one thing over there is it's a servant leader role. And we keep hearing these words quite often these days. Servant leadership, that's exactly what it is. Because you're working across the board with multiple leaders, multiple people. And through your business case, through the data, through your understanding, you're driving and working with them to ensure that the product gets delivered at the right time to the right set of people. Anand, am I correct on this, or what are your thoughts about it?
No, I think what you're saying is right. It was a great discussion today, and this is we just scratched the surface. I know we didn't answer exactly like a job description. Oh, these are the 5 things that a product manager has to do. But I think we have started kind of touching on the key things that a product manager over his career time has to do in the core to reach out to the ecosystem he works with, which are all the other departments, to ensure that the product is well managed or well developed. And that could be outbound to the market or inbound to the people who are creating phenomenal product, right? So let's close on this today, and in the next session we would continue this discussion, get more deeper into aspects of product management, give people more insight about what are the goods and the bads of the job, what are the gotchas, what they need to be careful about, what is exciting about it, what makes people so excited to go about it. So that's good. Sounds good.
So let me, Anand, before we close off, let me just summarize quickly what we talked about. So we talked about PM being a servant leader role. They are sort of more of an entrepreneurs in the world of corporate. I think there is a new word for it, which is called intrapreneurs. So which is like internal entrepreneurs, right? So that's exactly what a product manager is. Typically, a product manager is responsible for the vision, the strategy, and the go-to-market, or the GTM as we call it. The tools that we use to define all of this or to drive this is the 5 Ws, which is essentially the who, the what, the where, the why, and the how, right? So that's what we talked about, guys, and I'm hoping we will catch up with you in our next podcast. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, wear your mask, stay at home. Thank you.
Thanks, Abhisek, and thanks to all of you, our listeners, who would eventually become our listeners, and stay safe. Thanks. Bye-bye.
The Product Management Talk.